Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start a brand new series that focus on how to use n8n to build the AI-powered automation workflow. So the first episode, we're going to focus on the basic. We're going to build an end-to-end workflow from scratch based on a real working scenario. So what is n8n? n8n basically is a platform, it's like a layer that decide to connect the different dock together. The different dock, I mean the different component from a different software provider. It is a drag and drop platform that friendly to people who don't have the coding experience. From their web page, you can see what they claim visual building. Yeah, you can see what is going on, and you can build very complex workflow from it. I think it made a very good design choice on how granularly for the building block they design as the basic element. So if you're not too hard, but you still can build many complex workflow in a reasonable fast. Okay, so before we start to build this workflow, I just want to give you some context first and show you a demo, and then we will start build it from scratch step by step. So let's say we have a person whose name is Bob. He need to grab some data from their data warehouse where storing all those sales data in the past week. So every Monday, 9 a.m., he need to open his computer, write some SQL to get the data from their data warehouse, and then he has to filter out those order is already paid and also the order already is still being processing. So for those order being still being processing, so he has to copy to another data storage platform. Let's say they're using Airtable. So let's say they have a bunch of the order data, something like that, with the employee name, order price, and the order status. Except for the filtering, he also need to report after he filter out the data and get the total order being booked in the last week and also the total value. And he will need to send the email to the whole team to let the whole team understand what is the status of the business. He do it manually, but we could automate the whole thing using n8n. I'm gonna show you real quick. So this is a workflow that we are built for Bob. So you're gonna schedule on every Monday 9 a.m. get some data from their data warehouse, filtering out those data are processing or being booked and put it into the Airtable and write some code to get the total book number and total sale value, send an email. So I can run the workflow to show how it looks. You can see when the workflow is running, it will the step already processed, it will become green. So when the workflow is done, we can see we have a draft email here. Give you a self data report. The total being booked and also total value. So this is the order being processed. Okay, let's start to build this exact workflow, start from scratch. Okay, running n8n, there's two ways. So can be on the cloud. Also, you can self-hold on your local machine. But for all beginner, I would suggest that use the cloud version because it's gonna be less setup. So they are actually an open source software has have a huge number of the stars. So for the cloud version, basically you have pay a little bit, but it has the try period. So you go to their website, click sign in. When you after sign in, it will ask you to create an instance. An instance basically is you can think of it's like a virtual machine gonna be hosting your workflow. Your workflow gonna running on top of it. So this is my instance that I created before. Then I click open the instance. Then I go in entering in the canvas. So on the left hand side, you have the overview and also personal overview. Basically, just like telling you the whole status of instance, that how many workflow and how many being executed, what's the failing rate, what's the running time. And personal basically is all your workflows under that without those without being added to the project. You can create a project under the project menu, but for I only buy the starter monthly subscription, so I want. So your workflow is gonna be in the middle. When you click create workflow, it will bring you to a canvas. A canvas just basically just like you can drag and drop the component and node to and connect them together to make the workflow you are assigning to build. There's a couple button on the left bottom corner. Basically, it is for zoom in, zoom out, and put it back in right center. So you can rename your workflow. Let's say call it sales thing. You can add some tag, your better organization. So everything of for a workflow is starting from a trigger. So it has millions of the different trigger. The most basic one is a manual trigger. So a manual trigger means that when you click, the workflow gonna be being triggered and it's gonna be start to run. Other than that, there's a lot of different other trigger in the node library. So could be an event on a certain app. Those are all the connector that is already developed by n8n. Example could be from Amplify, could all kinds of different connect, could be schedule. Like we said, we could schedule in a certain time, in a certain interval, between a certain interval, and then automatically trigger period. So also could call by the other workflow or call by the other service. So that's what the webhook call being used. Yeah, just for simplicity per se. So we're gonna use the trigger by manually first. So I think our first step is we're gonna get some data from the data warehouse. Fortunately, they expose an API that we can extract the data from. So in order to using the n8n to get the data from a third-party service which don't have the node in the n8n. So most easier way is to use the HTTP request. So how do we connect between two nodes? Basically, it's very easy. You just drag this plus, connect to the other dot in the second. In a HTTP request, there's a different method. So we're gonna use get, and I will share the URL that we could use later on in the show notes. So basically, the URL is the API that you are calling upon. Most of the API service that will require a certain authentication. A very common one is the authenticate by the API key mostly. So in that case, which is our case as well. So we're going to select genetic credential type. We're going to select header authentication. So I already create one, but I want to show you how to do it. I click create, and then we put API key, then put the API. So where actually we get those link and API quickly show you. So n8n, they develop a course that can let you to exercise with the real data. So show you quickly. So in their level one course, click sign up, put name, email, room, it doesn't matter. I do have one. After that, you're gonna receive email from, they're gonna send you the API and API key. So if we connect correctly, it will show you that successfully. And one more thing that we would like to select, we're gonna set a header because in order to use this URL, you have to show the ID as well. You choose the send header, use field below value. So as long as you put everything, then you get the data. So in the n8n, the way that it works is that you have the input from your left hand side and your current node set up in the middle, and then you have the output in the right hand side. So you can see that like, if we execute this manual trigger, it doesn't have the output. But when you click this HTTP request and you have the input node is the manual trigger and you have set up in the middle, and then you have the output in your right hand side. One thing I want to mention is that in the n8n, they set up a way that has three different ways to display the data. So one is schema, which is shown in this way. You can see that it has 29 items and then has the key as the beginning value at the end. And the second way to display is through window and also JSON at the end. And format is working here is that it use the square bracket is the our script, just like the list in the Python. So basically it has like object one, like the list of object in a list enclosed by the square bracket. So after we run this HTTP request node, there's one function is very useful in the n8n that you can pin the data here, and you don't have to rerun the node during your development because sometimes it takes very long to run a node, especially for those scraping node, for example, Amplify. Every time you run you're scraping 100 lead from using that API, it costs you some money. So you don't want to test by running multiple times. It costs you many different run because it costs money. So you can pin the data here. It's gonna be save you rerun this node again. So as we mentioned that when we get the data out, we would like to connect the data to Airtable, and we only want to send the processing data to the Airtable. We can see right now that we mix the order with book and process. Okay, in order to filtering that, we can add a filtering node. So let's say if the condition gonna be order status equal to process. So the way that the data flow from left to right, how do you connect the data from the previous node to the current node is that you drag the particular value from the previous node in your left hand side into the location that in your configuration of the current. So here we are looking for the order status. If it is equal to the processing, then we will allow it pass through into the true branch. We can click the execute step to take a look. We can see that we coming in we have 29 items. Then coming out in the cap branch that we only have 14 left. Then the discard we have 15. So after that we're gonna pass the data to the Airtable, search Airtable. table. Because we're gonna create a record, so we're gonna say create record. So the way the Airtable work is show you quickly. So I just log in and go to the workspace. Inside your workspace, your data will be organized by table. All the table gonna be like a tab in your browser. And go back to our setting for the Airtable node. You have to the first thing in order to connect to the Airtable, you have to create the credential first. And if you don't know how to do it, n8n has very good like user-friendly design that it always link the documentation in the setting of the. When you click Open Docs, it will bring you to the step-by-step instruction on how to get the credential. So you can just like go in the builder hub in personal access token, create a new token, just give it a name and create a scope. Basically, you want to read, you want data records, you also want schema-based read. So I already renamed my the workspace. So basically, you just give me the access to a specific workspace. So let's say this workspace, create token. You copy the token and then go back to here, click save. And from the resource, choose record, operation, choose create. From the list, you can see that this credential only allow the scope is for the beginner course. But in my case, I actually have more than one workspace. As you see that we have another workspace, maintenance checker. But because that API token only allow this beginner course table. Yeah, from that workspace, you select the workspace that you're gonna be choose, and from the table, you choose which table you're gonna pass the data on. Let's say I'm gonna add the data to this table order. So mapping the column mode. So basically, you have two modes. Can mapping automatically. So if you're gonna map automatically, basically you have to make sure that the key value of your JSON format, the key has the exact same name of your column in the Airtable. So you can see order, order ID, customer ID, employee name. So if we have all of that, so we can choose map automatically. Like if no, then the best way is that you put it map automatically, you check one by one, something like that. But I changed the column name matching the previous node's output from the JSON format that I'm gonna make it map automatically. When I hit execute this step, it will fill up the data here one by one. And we have 14 items. So the way that n8n decides that it will by default, it will run the script inside the code that for every item. It means that it will take all the item, totally 14 items, and create the record one by one in the Airtable. Should be able to see the order filling up here if everything working. But yeah, we can see that this 14 order already being put here. And one thing we can improve is that sometimes when we want to save the processing time and also save the storage in the Airtable, sometimes we might don't want to insert all the column to the Airtable. Let's say we only want the employee name and the order ID. So how can we filter that? So basically what we're gonna do is break the connection first, and we're gonna add in the call now. No, there's a no call add field. So basically what it is that you can manually to choose the portion of the data from previous node and then filter down to that particular field that you choose. In our case, we want the order ID. You can see that it automatically put the key name and also the value. We also want the employee name. After that, we can test. Basically, we can see that in the left hand side we have 5 columns, and the right hand side we only have like left 2 columns. Okay, let's pin here and connect back to the. So because here we only have 2 columns, we don't want to insert in the order table. So we create another table that only have 2 columns. So let's just change the configuration there to process order, because I already matching the key of the JSON to the column name of this table processing orders. So I just map automatically. So we can take, okay, let's just delete wherever we have here first and then see the result. Okay, you can see the result already passed on the Airtable. Okay, I think we finished this portion of the work for automation. The only thing left is that we're gonna calculate all the order for already booked and what's the total number and also what's the total value, and send an email to Gmail to inform everyone. So how are we gonna to do it? So I'm gonna show you another note that because here we use the filter, only filter out the processing order, but we discuss the book value, which we want to calculate the total number of the book order, also calculate the total value of the book order. But using this node, it only has the second branch to keep the data. So we do a little bit modification. We delete this node. We use a different way to filter everything. We use an if connector first. So what it did is, you can see it's very similar to the filtering node. It has the condition. So we also doing the same thing. The condition is orders data is equal to processing, then equal to the true branch. The for branch is not equal to processing, and then go to the for branch. So that way we can manipulate in the fourth branch, which we will calculate the total number of the booking and also total value of the booking. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the run a custom JavaScript code using the code node. Let's choose the code in JavaScript, delete the connection. Gonna connect from the for branch. So it supports the JavaScript and also support the Python. It also has two modes. So one mode is that it run once for the code for all the items. So another mode is that you're gonna run once for each item. So for our use case, we need to calculate all the 15 items. We need to calculate the total number of the item account, and also we need to calculate the sum of the order value. So basically, for us, we're gonna run once for all the items. So we use the input all to get all the item. The item length is the total number of the item, and then we go through every item. We add the order price to the sum, and then we return the way that n8n recognize. As I mentioned before, it only recognizes the JSON format, but in a list. So something like that. That's why we need to return like JSON and also total book value. So we can take a quick look. So we get a total number and also the total the value of the order being booked. After that, we can send the result through the Gmail. We have Gmail, then we just create a job first for now. And same thing. The first step is you have to create the credential. Like I'm here already connect to my Google email. So it's very easy here because it provides the OAuth2. Basically, you just need to sign in, and it will pop up the window that you click the Google email that you want to sign in, provide the access to the n8n node. So when it connects successfully, you can change the name of the credential. Say go back, resource job create subject this is sales data for demo, and in the email context. So basically, we would like to get the dynamic change number. So let's say last week total book number and total value, and we can just jot the variable here. I think that's it. When we go to our email job, let's delete this one first. When we click execution, it should send the email to the Gmail as a job. No, it should create a job email. Go here. Yeah, demo, this total number and total value. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole automation workflow that easy to understand the basic building block for the n8n. Next video, we can go through a more realistic workflow that utilize some other essential building block as well. Thank you for watching.